back to the Platformers. I'm Shani Kazaz, and I'm super excited to be here. And today we have a really special guest, Linda.
Hello, hello. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So for you, it's good morning. For me, it's good evening.
Yes, for me, it's, I don't even know what time, 1 p.m. in New York. We're
Okay,
live
so
in New York City.
7 p.m.
Yeah, and I'm very curious, like, what if anyone's, whenever someone comes on, where they're actually calling in from or Zoom chiming in from. So it's always nice to see everyone kind of on the stream from different places. So
Definitely. So Linda, today you're talking about super interesting topic.
Yeah.
Please present yourself and what you're
Yeah.
doing.
So my name is Linda, and I am a developer advocate here at AWS. And today I'm going to talk about how you could take any certification study notes and use AI to have a study buddy in your CLI. A lot of that came from me actually studying for certifications and wanting a way to test myself on notes, because when you quiz yourself, you could kind of remember the information better. And I'm curious if anyone on the stream has, it's studying for a certification, doesn't have to be AWS, maybe like a cybersecurity one, or has taken any, because, honestly, like, it's one thing when you're studying to have those notes in your mind and like trying to read them, but it's another when you kind of see why you're getting things wrong. So yeah, we're going to build a study buddy today, and I'll show you some cool approaches as well. And you could transfer it to also building other AI applications. So
nice. I think that I have my really non-useful notebook still here for the for the AWS certification.
Yeah, you still have the notes? Do you still use them?
No, I never use them. I just have tons of notes unnecessary.
Well, I hope this will help you too, and maybe you'll be able to upload this to your little CLI study buddy and be able to, anytime you want, just pop the quiz in your CLI, and we'll be showing how to do that. So if that's cool, should we get started?
Yep.
Let's do it. Okay, so have you ever, like, had this kind of screen when you're studying for certification, and you have all these different notes, and it could be quite overwhelming, and you have the guide and the slides and all that. And that was me studying for my AI practitioner certification. And quite frankly, I wanted a better way to study, because what I do in 2025 is I had a topic called Bedrock on this exam. And I'm like, okay, let me go to my AI chatbot, and ask it, what is Amazon Bedrock, right? That is a topic, let's say, that comes up. And I go to, your chatbot, like Claude and stuff like that, right? And I'm asking, okay, explain it. And I get this kind of answer. It's an open source model hub developed by it. And so this is wrong. This is not the case. And this is what we call a hallucination. And why that happens is that a lot of times you have data cutoff, or it's not specifically updated for your use case. And data is your differentiator when you're building AI applications. So, I was asking you to explain Bedrock, and he got it wrong, right? And essentially what Bedrock, for just a quick overview, what Bedrock is it's a serverless, fully managed way to be able to choose any model of choice and connect to it via an API. And you have a marketplace with a lot of different options. But essentially what it should have, I told it what it was. And now I go back to my chatbot and I tell it, okay, this is the information, and you got it wrong and you're hallucinating, right? And it tells me you're right. It's incorrect. After double checking, it kind of hallucinated. So how do we avoid this? How do we give it this Bedrock documentation or whatever else we're trying to teach it to be able to not have these hallucinations? And there are essentially foundation models could be customized in 4 different ways. And we're going to focus specifically on something called RAG, but I'm going to quickly give you an overview of 4 different ways you can customize your foundation models. So essentially, when you customize, the first one, and the probably cheapest one, is to use prompt engineering. And I clicked that too quickly. But before we get to that one, let's go to prompt. Okay, yes. So prompt engineering, in our case, let's say you want a large language model to behave with the user, and you might say, hey, I want you, let's say, I don't know if any of you have kids, and I might say, okay, I want you to act like a teacher for an 8-year-old, and I want you to say it in this tone. And, many of us have kind of done the pre-prompting where we say, act like this role and then do XYZ, right? And that's great if you don't need it to then remember later on to have that same tone, right? It's a cheap way to customize a foundation model. You might say, here's some context. Here's my email example. Let me customize that. That's one way. Another way to customize a foundation model is called RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. This is when you take external, like real-time data. Let's say you have a website that keeps updating and there's a cutoff on the foundation model. It won't, just like we saw, right? So what you would do is maybe have a crawler and use some sort of way to get that information and augment that prompt for you to then give you a customized use case driven output. But this wouldn't change the model itself, right? This would be just giving external data, which we're going to show how to do. It makes a lot more sense when you build it. But this is another way. A more expensive way, and probably it would change a model itself. It's called fine tuning, and it's more complex. You might recalculate the weights of a model. You're going to specialize in certain tasks. So the example for this would be you might train it on hundreds of inputs and outputs and do all that and further fine tune it. And a fourth option is called continue pre-training, and essentially it's for a specific domain. Let's say you're trying to solve cancer. Okay, so you have constant research that comes in. And so you can see it's like kind of increasing in cost, time, and complexity. And there are many ways to customize. Also, you're not limited to just one, right? You can do a combination of them. But what, Linda, you're asking, okay, Linda, great. What are these all four of these things? What are you actually focusing on today? And what we're focusing on today is RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. So Retrieval Augmented Generation, as we kind of touched on, combines two steps. You have your foundation model. And what it's going to do, you're going to ask it something, right? Like when I was asking, what is Bedrock? Now, instead of just going to the model and giving me the response, it will first retrieve from this information that I gave it, right? This custom information, maybe private enterprise data, right? And then add to that prompt so it has the context. We'll find the right thing, add to the prompt, and then go to the model, right? So one way to do that, one way to store that data is vector databases. And vector databases are really good for retrieval augmented generation, right? So let's say now you might be asking, okay, I want to do this, build this custom application. I want to build a study buddy, right? I want to just build some sort of quiz that tests me based on my notes. So I need to give it my notes. So we want to put it in a vector database. Now, this is a very simplified version of a vector database. It's just 3D here, but it actually in reality is much more complicated. So to do that, there are a few of steps I would have to take. Actually, it could be a bit complicated to do vector databases because what I would have to do is first, I would have to take this data. I would have to chunk it, right? Put it in smaller chunks, as you can see in document chunks. And then I would have to also use some embedding model and be able to store it in that. It's a process. And so it could get complicated, okay? I might have to convert the text to vectors, and so it gives it numerical values and whatnot. It would look something that, obviously this image is very simplified, but it would look something like that. And essentially what would happen is, in a retrieval augmented generation approach, is here I am, I'm the user, and I'm asking, what is Amazon Bedrock? And so what it will do then is once I have my study notes, let's say in this vector data store, I will use LangChain, which is a way for me to actually do this, take the information, type chain, and send it to the model. And I could say, okay, go to the vector store, get my study notes, come back to LangChain. LangChain will give this a prompt plus context plus the question and send it then to my large language model, which in this case will be hosted by Amazon Bedrock, and I'm choosing Claude 3.7. And you might be saying, and then it gives me back the response. Okay. But you might be saying, okay, Linda, all we wanted was a study buddy. This is a little bit too much, right? A little too much work for the use case. And so what's really cool, what I'm excited to share, is that there is an easier way to do this with Bedrock, and it's called knowledge bases. So where you don't have to take care of all of this, and it's automated and fully managed, and you just have to do it with like an API call and be able to create this knowledge base. And so this is managed by Bedrock. So you as a developer, you might be saying, okay, I don't want to be doing all this. I'm not going to start putting everything in a vector database that way and start chunking my documents. However, I could go to Bedrock on the console, create something called a knowledge base, and put my data on an S3 bucket or use a web crawler and be able to then just pinpoint to that. So the best part, of course, the best way to learn is always to build. So I think we should go and build it and it will make a lot more sense. But I'll just pause for a second to see if there's any questions or anything like that before we continue. Or Shani, if you have any questions or anything like that. Okay, I think we're good on questions. Okay, so I'm going to switch my screen and we're going to go to a different screen and let's go to the console actually. Let's see. I'm going to stop this screen. Okay, let's present. Oop. I'm just going to pull up right now the console and we'll be able to then build. So, okay. Hi, Shani. And so till now,
Hello, I'm back.
it was all till now theory. And with theory, I like to say, it's nice, but it's not the way you grasp information. And the slides are nice, but So what we're going to do actually is we're going to spin it up on Bedrock. So we're actually going to go look at how to do this and how to actually build the CLI study buddy. So right now I am in the Amazon console. Sorry, is my screen okay? Is that clear? Easy to see? Okay, awesome.
Yes.
So
yeah.
I'm going to go to Amazon Bedrock and I want to show you a few cool things. So what I want to do is build a knowledge base, but as we said, Bedrock has many different use cases. It's a marketplace practically that has a lot of choices of different models, and you could choose it all, just switch the API call and be able to use any model, have the choice that you see here in this model catalog, or you could actually also do some custom models. What we were talking about today was knowledge bases. So in the left-hand side here, you see here, there's a button called knowledge bases. And this is where I could add my study notes and be able to customize, right? So I built one, but I want to show you how this works. And you could even have a playground here to play around with it. So to create one, you would go to create. Let's say we want to do it with a vector store. And I'm just going to quickly just show what it's like. Here you have the name. You might put a description. We could leave this the same. But here, you could put your data. Let's say you have notes, right? You could put it on S3 here, right? And have that stored. So that's where I would maybe have a folder with my notes, PDF, text, a few different things, and could store it in here. Now, and there's a lot of different connectors, which is really cool. So there's a lot you could do. What you would then do, you would have the bucket. You would browse your S3 and find the bucket. And from there, there's a lot of advanced settings here as well, which we don't need to get into at this moment. But you could add data sources. You could have multiple, which is nice. But from here, okay, I didn't choose it. Okay, let's just choose study notes. Okay, here's my study notes. Okay, so let's say I'm choosing this, right? From here, whoop, I forgot something. Oh, there we go. No. Oh, I had a second study, second bucket. Let's delete that. Okay, so from here, you then could choose the vector database you use. Now, there's a lot of different options. You could do open source serverless, and what I actually used for this project is Pinecone, because it's also free to use, free tier. And for this use case, you're probably doing this like a local app. But you could also, of course, easily use OpenSearch. And of course, you're doing enterprise type RAG, I recommend not using like an OpenSearch type vector database. But you can use existing ones, so you could play around with it. And so then I already created one. So I just want to show you in my knowledge bases what it looks like once it's created. Once it's created, you might have something like this. And you could see here it's available. Don't forget, if you're creating one, let me just close this for a second. You always want to sync it. Right now, it's already doing that. But over here, it says available. Make sure that's the case. And you see it's using S3. And what this has is my certification notes. And what's cool is I could play around right here in the console and select a model of choice and try to, let's see, we could use 3.7 Sonnet. And so now, instead of just talking to Claude 3.7 here, it's also going to use my knowledge base. And so now when I ask it a question, what is Bedrock? Let's see, what is Bedrock? It's actually going to retrieve also based on my notes, and tell me where it pulled from. So I'll show you in a moment that here it actually specifies what it's pulling from and where's the source from my knowledge base notes, the ones that I uploaded. So it's pretty cool. But of course, on day to day, you wouldn't be using it necessarily in the console. You would probably be using it in the code. But before I get into that, I just want to ask if there's any questions before anything like that. Feel free to comment. But this is kind of the console version. But I think it's cooler to see it in the code for us to actually build out and have a quiz that we could use. So if we're ready, Shani, you tell me whatever you prefer. If you're ready to go first in the code, or we want to like chat for a second about this tool now. Either way.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
I'm back.
Yay!
Oh, perfect. Oh, yay!
Oh, sorry.
This is super cool. This is super cool. I didn't see it yet, and I know that I should have seen it, but it's super cool.
Well, now we're actually going to show how to do it.
But...
Yeah, no worries. And don't be shy. Feel free to ask any questions. Yeah. So I'm going to show it in the code because the real way you would actually implement this is in the code, right? So I want to show how you would actually do this. There's also specific API calls, but as we were showing, and I'll just go back for a moment to the presentation, it's fully managed. So now, one more thing before I go to the code. In here, all you need from the knowledge base, there's a code here that says the knowledge base ID. And that's the main thing you need in your code when you're building it, right? Right here, knowledge base ID. So that in your API call will be calling this knowledge base, and I'm going to show you how it works. So what I think I'll do is I'll first show you how I run it and how the quiz looks like. And then we could go into how it's built, if that makes sense. Or if we have different recommendations, that works too. So I'm going to share now another screen because there's never enough screens on here.
Sure.
Let's go here. One more screen. Stop share. Let's go to the screen. Window. All right. So also, by the way, as of like a few weeks ago, there was the Q developer CLI agent that launched. So I'm actually always doing this now and practically asking it to do things, which has been incredible. It runs, builds, does a lot of different things. Excuse this README at this moment. It's going to probably distract. But here, let's say if you have questions or you want to ask something about a project you're in, it's quite easy. So let's say I don't know exactly how I forgot how I decided to run this. So can you run the quiz for me? Quiz in this project for me. And so, it's thinking and it will help me run it. And let's see. Okay. It's probably looking into how you run it here. And so my Y key is being like, watch it. Sorry, a little bit of a tangent, but here we go. Let's run the quiz. I didn't even need to figure out what it was, but essentially Python main.py is my main file. And so I'm saying the difficulty is medium and I want 5 questions, right? And I want general questions about my quiz, right? So let's say I'm telling it to run now. This is the quiz in the CLI. So let's see what happens. And feel free to think to see what kind of questions you prefer. Actually, you know what? Let's do Amazon Bedrock because let's make the topic. I'm being lazy, but it's fine. Bedrock. So now it will update the call to be Bedrock. Let's give it a sec. Okay, so now you see it says topic Bedrock, difficulty medium, question 5. And I'm going to show you how we built this, but I just want to give you an example of how this works. So now it's going to use the retrieval augmented generation API call. Tell me about Bedrock certification. And I think it's taking time because it's using RAG. But what I will show you in the meantime is this is the architecture. Oh, sorry, the question came up. Hold on. Let's do the quiz. Then we'll look at the README. Hold on. Okay, so excuse this README, not to distract you. Let me close it. Sorry. Anyway, so, okay, we have a quiz. What is Amazon Bedrock? We already kind of went through this, but okay. And feel free to comment what you think it is. So we have like different options. And so one of the biggest things when you're building a quiz is you want to know why you get something right or wrong. So it actually will explain it to you. So let's say Amazon Bedrock, a fully managed service, whatever. So let's see if it's B, right? Oh, it's correct. And now it gives me the explanation. So now I asked it to give me 3 questions or 5 questions, I think, in the call here, but I could customize how many questions I want. What is the purpose of fine-tuning a model on Amazon Bedrock? Okay. And by the way, we could also try to get this incorrect and just see what happens. Right. So here, is it to train a new model from scratch? Is it to adapt a copy of existing? Is it to create a new foundation model? Is it to improve? Right. So the correct one is obviously you're adapting right to your data. But let's say we want to get it wrong. Okay. So this is incorrect, and it's telling me here's the correct answer. And here's the explanation, right? I think we have 5 questions, so we could continue going. And Shani, feel free to chime in at any point. I feel like this is funny because this is actually information that we talked about in this presentation, which is kind of cool. What is the purpose of continued pre-training on Amazon Bedrock? And so is it A, to train a new model from scratch using unlabeled data? And now this is all generated from my notes, right? Like this is kind of taking a guide from the certification and making multiple choice questions. And I'll go into how it's built. But let's say, what's the purpose of continued pre-training, right? To create a new foundation, to adapt existing. So it might be B, right? Okay, so correct. And so then what happens after I answer all these questions, which I could kind of run through, but if we want to learn, what are guardrails in Bedrock? Guardrails. So what is the purpose of guardrails feature in Amazon Bedrock? Right? So we have to control user interaction, right? To improve performance, to create foundation models from scratch, or to evaluate performance. So I think it's A. So in this case, we probably got 4 out of 5, 3 correct out of 4 so far. What is the purpose of agents? Feel free to chime in if you think you know the answer. What is the purpose of agents feature in Amazon Bedrock? Right? Okay, so maybe A. Okay, so now we answered our 5 questions, and I get a score. And it's actually, I'm having it save my score in DynamoDB. And that way I could look at my performance. I could see the history of my scores. And now if I want to do specific topics in, let's say, a cybersecurity related or DevOps related certification, or just anything you want to really learn, you can kind of save your progress and be able to customize and get and also make difficulty. So the more interesting part is, how is this built? So let's go to the README for a moment. Let's go into here. And so this is the README. Let me just pull into here. So, right, we have the study materials. We put it in an S3 bucket. We showed Bedrock. And then we saw here how it's generating the quiz questions. And is this big enough, by the way? Is this like too small? I don't know.
Yes. No,
it's okay?
I think it's good.
Perfect. So we have, so what I wanted to show is, I think we were talking about knowledge bases, right? And we were talking about how we were just using an ID, a specific ID, to call the model. And if I want to switch the model, let's say I want DeepSeek, or I want to change it, I could just change it by changing the model ARN and making sure I have access to it in the console, right? So here, I will show you where this API that's doing all this heavy lifting is. This is the prompt template. We're just going to go for a moment to, I'm looking for, okay, here we go. Let me see. This is retrieve. Okay. It's somewhere here. Retrieve and generate. Okay. So do you see this? Line 94, 95. Okay.
I think that you can zoom in a bit.
Oh, let me zoom in here and try to make it easier to see. Is it big enough now? Better?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So there's an API call you could use with knowledge bases with Bedrock that actually, it does the retrieval of the notes and generation all without you having to, like, it's fully managed for you. So you just have to do retrieve and generate. You put this ID, which here I have it in my env file, right? So I have my env file here with my ID here that I got from my console. But so you have it right there, and I just lost the page, but that's okay. Oh, here we are. And so you have it right here, and it's setting self ID and self model. And from this, I'm able to do this whole customized retrieving of my notes and sending it to whichever model I want. Here, I am choosing, let me go here back to ENV. Here, I'm choosing Claude 3.7, but I could change it to something else, right? So if we go back to the console, which I could show you, you could just change the model ARN and have it pretty much any of the ones that we have, or maybe if you want a custom one too, but like you're able to just switch that and change the models you're also using, which is really cool. And so how it works is I am also prompting it, and I have this prompt. This is my prompt. Let me show you. Lots of code. But this is also like a nicer version. It started out with just one page that works, and then it slowly went became larger because we also have the DynamoDB client, which is practically storing all your scores and whatnot. And essentially, when we're running everything, we're running it from here. This is the main file, right? So here it's importing everything. You have all the logging that was happening when we were doing the quiz, right? We even have the colors somewhere. Is it on here? Oh yeah, here's the default region. Here's the, this is a default. Let's say if you don't specify and you just want to run the file, it will kind of default to a difficulty of medium, 5 questions. Here's the DynamoDB table. It will create it if you don't already have it. And then you have the, it's calling here and running the quiz. But here, here are the colors and all that. The difficulty. And so it checks if it's correct. It stores in DynamoDB. And this is a function to show the history. So you could see the history. So if I want to see my past scores, for example, now I could go here. Let's say if I'm studying, let's do here for a moment. Sorry. Ready? Okay. And so I'm just going to be lazy again and ask it, can you run the app? And what did we want? Actually, can you show me the history of my scores? And so it's kind of, I restarted this, so it's looking for what it actually needs to do and what this project is, which is awesome. This is also my best friend right now, Q dev agent in the CLI. And so yeah, it's been amazing. I'm like, I don't even need to remember anything to check this out.
Amazing.
So here's my past scores, right? So I was playing around with it. I did easy 100%. And so here's my most recent. So this is the function right over somewhere that we lost. Here's my history. And so I'm able to customize a lot of different things in this quiz. And you could kind of plug in your own notes. I have a GitHub repo that is going to be live shortly, but I will send also the QR code and put it in the on-demand link as well. But it's really powerful when you kind of combine AI into what you're doing and trying to 10x your productivity. Clearly, I'm also doing that in the terminal right now. And we can also suddenly spin up a front end. I mean, I don't know if we want to go there right now. It's totally up to the audience, but we could start spinning up a front end if we want to for it. And Bedrock is really powerful because I'm able to now go here and literally just change which model I'm using and the knowledge base with my S3 bucket. And I don't need to do any of the configuration of having an embedding model and the vector database and chunking and all that. I'm just uploading it to S3 and connecting it and doing it with one call and using the retrieve and generate API, which I will show you the docs for. So for a moment, I'll pause. I don't know if we want to quiz ourselves some more or we want to take a look for a moment. I will share the QR code for a second. So I will stop this screen and present back this screen. Okay, so this is the QR code where you will find the code for this project. And we'll update it also. It's the blog post, which will have the GitHub link. And if you want to build your own, let me know. I would love to see what you add to it too. And I think if you're looking for a study buddy and any notes you're trying to, for me, it helped me when I was trying to do it quickly. You know, when you're falling asleep and you're trying to study and then you're just like, okay, I just need something. So now I'll just plug and play anything that I'm studying for. And the more notes you put in there, the more customized it goes. You could also make it 20 questions. You could have it tell you what you think you should specialize, have it explain to you the wrong answers. Of course, caveat, AI could hallucinate. So always make sure you're kind of giving it the right information. Be wary. But for the most part, when you're using RAG, it reduces those hallucinations. I just want to quickly go through. So this was the API we used, right? So all I had to do was give it this knowledge base ID, the model, and it was doing all of this for me, right? I didn't have to like it's using another model to embed, and I just had to choose that in the knowledge base, but I didn't have to do really anything after that. And this is really great when you have real-time information, things that are constantly updated that the model would not have information for. So this is the knowledge bases. Here's another diagram if you want to see how this works in case this is helpful. So I was the user. It's doing all this with this API call. It augments the prompt, gets the model. I specified which model. This whole thing happened from that. So the three takeaways, just quickly overview. Foundation models have limitations. And you always want to work backwards to select the right use case. So in this case, we used Pinecone, right? Free tier, because we're not doing an enterprise grade application here. And we wanted to use something that is cheap, that is local, that I could quickly put maybe notes that are not like, and a large amount of notes. It's more, so that works. So always think about what is your use case? What is your budget? And it's the API calls, it's pretty like, that not using Pinecone free tier, it's like minimal. And the thing is, your data is your differentiator, right? The difference between something that hallucinates and doesn't give you accurate information and something that does is really your data. And that's how you mitigate it. Now, of course, we talked about multiple ways. RAG is one way. This is other resources you can use to upskill, learn more about knowledge bases on Bedrock, build cool things, focus on building cool things and not having to deal with all the under the hood. And also, if you want to use QDev CLI agent, especially platformers, if you want to update all your Terraform files in one go with like 2,000 files and need to upgrade your Java version or your Python version or your Lambda version, I don't know. I mean, you could literally do that with the CLI agent. Which is really awesome. It's been a game changer for me for the last 2 weeks. I think I've been using the Y key constantly. I do accept all sometimes, and it just does everything, but it depends what project. But yeah, so if you want to use that, recommend it. Actually, initially, this project was much more simple. And thanks to this, I was able to update a lot of it even more. Like the whole file structure you see, obviously it's fancier. That happened because of QDev CLI. Originally, I had everything in one file, kind of very much demo. Was still working very beautifully, but this is kind of best practice. So, but any questions, even if you see this on demand, let me know, write it in the comments. I'll go through after and answer anything as well. I think that's the gist of it, but anything else, I'll go back to the other QR code that was the project, because I think that people, in case they want the code, right over here. Okay.
Linda, how much time it took you to build it?
Okay, so are we talking pre the last month, or so this is the crazy part. So initially the demo, I built like a very simple version without storing scores and doing all that within like a couple of hours. However, it wasn't dynamic, right? I didn't have difficulty in it. I didn't have like topic variation. I didn't have it was much more hard-coded. To abstract it took me probably another day or two. And then I probably spent yesterday updating it even more with the file structure and the way it does the difficulty and the topics. So that was a more recent one. So that probably took me a couple of hours. But what happened in a couple of hours would have taken me a couple of days in the past, just because of the issues that could come up, dependencies, like all that. I was able to not have to do QDev CLI agent because I practically was able to it was fixing itself. Like, you want me to show you? Yeah, I don't know how much time we have, but I could show you something really cool. Like, let's say I wanted to build a front end right now for this. Or like, a lot of us are not, maybe not front end developers trying to do that, but I even built for my testing. I did like a REST API for CMS, and I was building for my testing a UI that's pretty, because why not? Because it took 2 seconds to do. And usually I would, use Postman and stuff like that. But yeah, it was able to kind of spin that up really quickly. And knowledge bases on Bedrock is a game changer because I, as a person who's not a machine learning engineer, I don't have to be, I'm really dealing with the bigger aspect and building those AI applications. And a lot of our jobs is also learning how to use these tools right now and adapt. And also, one more important thing, when you're building these applications, you have to have evals, observability, and a lot of this stuff is built into Bedrock as well. You have evals, which practically checks the health of your models. And, especially coming from like the DevOps and, the kind of having that SRE end and making sure things are healthy. When you're dealing enterprise grade, there's a difference between a demo and a production level application. So you want to make sure. Sorry, I'm babbling over here. Feel free to ask any questions too. Yeah. Thanks, Giorgio.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think that we have any more questions.
Yeah.
But again, feel free to ask on the comments, right, Linda?
Yeah, feel free to ask in the comments now or after. I will link everything as well in the post when we have the on-demand link. If we want to, how much time do we have? We have
a few moments.
Yeah, I could give an example, even like if what I would do next too, or like if we want to quiz ourselves a bit more. Do we want to study? You can let me know what you prefer. Do we want to build a front end or we want to do more quizzes?
Front end.
Front end. Okay. Let's try it. Live coding for the win. Let's do it. Okay.
You are great.
I mean, I do this to myself, but this is, I'm sorry if this goes wrong. Okay, so now I'm going back into, let's make a new, well, I was testing for my scores, right? But I think what we can do right now is we can you build a front end UI for my quiz? I want you to create it in a different folder so it doesn't change this one. Same type, make it visually appealing. So now what it probably will do is give me a design option here. I also could tell it to go into my development folder. Like I'm telling you where to build it, all that, which is incredible. Okay, so here it's saying, and I could also tell what I want. Maybe I want it with, Next.js or something like that. I'll run the following. Is React or Next.js best for this use case? Right, it is a Next.js framework, but I'm just trying to like see what it says. Right, so I could also like talk to it in between the prompts and then go back to saying no. Right. So it's saying, oh, both would work well, but they have different advantages, and then it gives me the pros and cons. I mean, I don't leave my IDE terminal here. Like this has been a game changer in the last 2 weeks. So I would say to your question of how long things take me to build now, even with AI before, like this is very different when it is agentic and does things in my CLI for me. It's a little different and executes. But of course it makes mistakes. Like for example, when I was building, there are things maybe I know that I would prefer to do. So you have to direct it. You're the manager. The fundamentals matter. And you have to look at things, review things, and make sure that, and the iterations, it's almost like you now have you're a team of software engineers, So a bit of that. But yeah, Shani, curious what your thoughts are as far as like how it will change like the platform. What have you been seeing as far as the industry?
So I actually didn't see much, but I think that it could be a game changer. I guess that some startups started to build something with AI for platform engineering. I heard some startup that tried to like create the service or maybe discover the service through AI. I'm not remember, but something like that.
By the way, it's making I love how we can have a conversation. It's making my directory with the I tend to like doing the yes because I like looking through. You could do like a /accept all, by the way, and accept everything. And as far as Bedrock, by the way, one more thing about Bedrock, because I know I'm talking here about QDev CLI, but as far as like Bedrock and RAG and all that, there's a playground also on the console that's really good for people to play around with. if they want to test out different use cases and whatnot. So highly recommend. You're able to kind of see the different outputs and you don't have to spin it up anywhere. So definitely recommend trying that as well. But yeah, there's a lot of it's updating, needs to install, but it also the days of dependency conflicts, like all that, like it was self-correcting things that usually take me a longer time to debug, which is crazy.
Nice.
So I think by the day we'll have updates.
This is a game changer for sure.
Yeah. So now I'm combining. I feel like between like Bedrock and this QDev CLI, I've been just like building a lot of all my side projects that I never finished are happening.
Yeah, like a kid in a playground.
Yeah. And I'm building stuff for my kids. Well, I taught my son how to do like, I was teaching my son how to use QDev and the CLI because you don't need to install anything. I mean, he plays chess on a computer, so he's used to like being on the laptop. So I taught him like how to go on terminal, and he's been loving it. He's been building games.
Yeah, it opens the door to people that just don't know how to code.
Exactly. And I think even when like now you could focus, like for example, you could really check like the architecture. Like there's things you'll catch and you'll be able to direct your way, like different costs, different, different scenarios. You understand the user better than anyone sometimes. And so I think it's been really fun to, it still takes, it's, you just make the projects also much more, fancy too, I guess. What would take me usually a day to do, like the simple demo is like make like 10 other features. Yeah. So it's been awesome. I'm going to go back to the other screen real quick. It's creating this in the meantime, but it might take a moment. But my point is we could have this whole conversation while it does this, which is amazing. And it's even doing it in the right. And then I could tell it to move folders, whatever. It's phenomenal. But I just think back on the days I had a lot of IAC files, having to update them, and how much this would have helped me. Let me send here. I'll share my screen. Back to this one. I mean, we could go back to this for a second. Hold on. So back to Amazon Bedrock for a moment. And if there's any questions, feel free to ask. I just want to show you where the playgrounds are. So here, there's playgrounds. You could select a model. We have a DeepSeek here. Oh, sorry, I think it's not shared. One moment. I'm going to get my screen back up. Perfect. So what I did was I went to the playground here. I have the chat or an image or whatever. So here, you could choose. There's DeepSeek. There's AI-21 Labs, Anthropic. So you can play around. Here, you have to actually request just access when you use it. So whenever you're using Bedrock, you could request access like this. So for example, you'll see here I have access to all these. Let's say I want to, all I have to do is request access right here. So modify model access, check it. Here we go. Let's check these. And then you'll be able to use it. That's it. Okay, so now if I want to go back to my playground, and now I can play around with things, right? So let's go to DeepSeek, or I didn't do DeepSeek because I didn't turn it on, but let's do 3.5 Sonnet, right? Right, so again, to our question, what do we want to ask it? What is Bedrock, whatever, I'm going default here. But, so not the Bedrock of, okay. You see what I mean?
Yes, the Bedrock is necessary here.
Amazon Bedrock. Yes, it doesn't understand what I'm saying. Because what's the beauty with vector databases? It tries to understand your intent, right? And so it's semantic search. And so when you're kind of doing knowledge bases with vector databases, that's exactly why it's like, what if I would say Bedrock with a knowledge base, it probably would understand I'm talking about Amazon Bedrock. If I say it to a general LLM, it thinks I'm talking about Earth's crust, normal, but makes sense in the context of a general LLM. So yeah, but you could play around with it. You could also, by the way, play around with images here. So we could select a model. Let's do, I think I have to request access. Oh, maybe I have this one, right? create an image of clouds in the sky. We love cloud, don't we? Here.
Okay. We love cloud.
Yeah, so it's all like in the playground here on the console, which is fun. So I've been like playing around. You can play around with like different you could do negative prompts, you could customize some of the prompts, you could really get it right and play around with things, and it's all in the console, which and also Q is in here too. So we have lots of AI going around here. But I think it's really interesting to think about the use cases for like DevOps, right? Because if you think about it, there's going to be all these new issues that we're going to have that I think we have to essentially be even more like evaluating and how we run our health as well, and how we update our system. So it's exciting. But yeah. So let's see. Now I can do a negative prompt. Yeah, and knowledge bases is great because if you just upload it in here, like right when I had knowledge bases here, I was able to just also play around with it right here. So I could also play around with the models here and just say, hey, and this actually has my S3 bucket. So all in the console, really fun. And I hope this helps study for different certifications and different things. You want to upskill?
I read this thing 2 years ago. That would be amazing. But actually now it's expired, so maybe I need it again.
Yes, you need it again. You need it again. Also, like even if you're doing like, it could be a lot of people, like I feel like use certifications as a guide, even if you don't take it, or like let's say you're trying to get like your CCNA, right, or something. I don't know. I think just having material that you could test yourself so you don't fall asleep. And I'm a person who likes learning from the questions. So like, that's why I like taking practice tests for various things. I think you just learn from getting things wrong, just like you learn from failing when you're building, right? The best way to learn when you're building is to fail. Oh my God. Thank you, Sherilyn. Thank you. And if you have any questions, feel free. And I'll also share all the GitHub links and would love to hear feedback. And if y'all, if it helps you study for different things. I personally, especially with 3 kids at home, need to have, it's like I'm answering questions versus like reading a file that I cannot, do at the moment with no hands, holding baby, So
100%.
Yeah. Also, the Y key on the, sorry, tangent, but the Y key on the QDIP CLI, I was able to like, just keep clicking, go make a mile, keep clicking. I mean, nice. Obviously there's a difference between production level, like you don't want to be pressing Y just on anything, but like, when you're building small projects or demos or like trying to spin up things, it's a game changer. So it's exciting times, crazy times, exciting times. So
yeah. So what about our UI?
Oh, what happened to the UI? Is it stuck? Let's see if it's stuck. Hold on. Oh wait, let's go back.
The first live demo worked. And this is like, this is a success for 100%. Now the second one,
we're going to ask it because I'm okay. We're going to see what's going on. If we have a few more minutes, why not? Let's see what's going on here. Let's see if it self-corrects. So I'm going to actually tell it. We love live coding and seeing what happens. I just asked you to build a front end. Oh, sorry, my screen is not sharing yet. But and I think it got stuck. It was taking longer on creating fight. Okay, let's see what it tells me. So now it's telling me, okay, I see this was happening. By the way, even when I was getting errors, it was self-correcting the errors and then like fixing it on its own. Which, nice. Like when I was giving the quiz and I was getting like, I had a funny error. DynamoDB didn't like that I was using float numbers. Like when I was putting the scores, like it was not liking certain numbers. And it was self-correcting it. And then it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to update this to percentages. Like while I was doing the quiz and it was like failing on me, I was like, that's impressive. That's impressive. Is it possible to create this without any experience? Is there a repository? Yes. So I am going to also, so Sergio was asking if it's possible to create this without any experience. Yes. I have a repo for this. I have a QR code. Let me reshare that real quick. And I'm going to actually once this is like on demand, I guess on the page, I'll pin, or we can pin the repo. Right now I have it right here. Let me share my screen and just give you the link real quick. Right here. So this is the link where I will have the GitHub repo in there. I'm just waiting for it to go live on the AWS samples. So I put the code in the blog on community AWS, but I will have it later today with the GitHub repo there. So you'll be able to just clone this and just run it. Like, and clearly I'm trying to build a front end. So if there's a front end, I might be able to have you use it without that. That's yeah, no. So yeah, you can. I want to show you something cool. Sergio, are you looking for no code, low code options as well for like RAG? Because if you're looking for quick type apps, also check out Party Rock. It's no code, low code. I can check it real quick, and it's phenomenal. I mean, we could send it. 1 second. I'll send you the link here. Hold on, in the chat. I'm gonna send it to the private chat. Here, yeah. Sorry. So, I don't know. How are we? Are we okay on time? By the way.
I think that we need to finish.
Oh, well. So this is where you're gonna see the updates. I'm going to update later today with the GitHub link. Feel free to ask any questions. You'll be able to clone this, and all you'll have to do is there's going to be instructions on how to just upload the information to there. But I'll put in maybe also like some other options that are no code, low code, like Party Rock, if you want to just also do something that's completely no code, and if you don't want to use the CLI. But yeah, and feel free to ping with any questions.
Perfect, Linda. It was super fun to host you here.
So fun being on, so fun getting to chat with you always. And I'm sure next time we'll chat, even in a week, there'll be another 10 updates. So it's always exciting to kind of build right now and learn, as we're always forever learning here. So
definitely.
Awesome.
So have a good day, have a good night, have a good noon, afternoon, whatever you are. And thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you. Talk soon.